RPMbassy. So this is kind of the Christmas episode, I guess, de facto Christmas episode. And I don't really have a ton of Christmas stuff that we haven't already spoken about. You know, you've got things like Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. You've got Wham! Last Christmas. You've got any number of Christmas singles. We've kind of done all of those. So I was sort of thinking, what can we talk about that's even slightly relevant? And I was sort of thinking, well, Christian rap metal, that's kind of, maybe we can squeeze that in as a Christian themed or a Christmas themed thing. So today we've got the album Satellite by P.O.D. This is a classic sort of nu metal, rap metal album with the dubious honour of having been released on the 11th of September 2001. Classic album. If you're familiar with sort of the nu metal subgenre as a whole, you will most likely be familiar with this. This is kind of, I think this is really kind of the commercial peak for a lot of people. You know, that sort of era of late 90s, early 2000s. This is where it sort of, I think, hit its zenith, and anything after this sort of era was kind of downhill. But this is actually a surprisingly well written and well put together album for something that, you know, that genre that has been, you know, so lambasted by critics over the years. So yeah, this I would say is probably their most popular album. In fact, almost definitely is by a long shot, and for good reason. Like this kind of really does like really highlight that kind of era of music and the sort of the generation that they were kind of targeting, those sort of like, you know, young millennials, slightly older Gen Xers. This really was kind of their bread and butter for a long time. Big songs on here. You've got stuff like Alive, which everybody knows, Boom, which is a great song that was featured in tons of like football games, like John Madden games, I think. Youth of the Nation, that's an amazing track, and that again has the fantastic honour of being parodied by Weird Al Yankovic, which I think that for a lot of artists is one of those things where if they've had that done, they know they've made it. And yeah, that song, like what an ideal song to do. So yeah, if you're not familiar with this, like you've probably heard these songs without necessarily knowing it. Like especially Alive, that's such a big track from the nu metal era. But there is, you know, as with like bands like Deftones, there's something slightly more going on in the background. Obviously, you've got the fact that not only are they a nu metal band, but they're a Christian metal band leaning into that nu metal sound, which feels kind of at odds with each other, the way sort of like nu metal was. But now looking back, you know, you look at some of the guys, especially like bands like Korn and stuff, they've all kind of like been reformed Christians and stuff for years now. So maybe P.O.D. were really onto something with it. But I think this actually, you know, look a little bit deeper than just calling it nu metal and kind of poo-pooing it. There's some really good guitar-based rock and metal on here, and like surprisingly heavy stuff as well. Like this is, bear in mind, this is before a lot of Christian metal bands, you know, bands like Under Oath, bands like Oh Sleeper, where they were really going hard in the screaming and stuff. Like, I never really thought of Sonny Sandoval, the singer for P.O.D. I never really thought of him as being a heavy vocalist. You know, a lot of it was rap, a lot of it was sort of like kind of clean singing, but there's some real good screams on here as well, actually. And yeah, they get very heavy, but there's some interesting stuff. There's a lot of influence from like reggae, a lot of ambient passages and things like that in here. And yeah, it's a really surprising album, actually, just to go back and listen to it as someone who, at the time, would have only really cared about the singles, and especially like Youth of the Nation. You know, it kind of really piqued my kind of edgy kind of desires back in the day. Yeah, mixed by Chris Lord Alge, who, like, opinionated as he is good at what he does. Like, he's a very, very good mixing engineer, and produced by his longtime collaborator Howard Benson. And yeah, it sounds really, really big. Like there's a sort of real heft to the sound, and you know, the fact that, granted, obviously, you know, you've got layers and things like that, you do more than one take, but yeah, I mean, I've seen these guys live, and I know that they can replicate this kind of sound, and it does sound massive. So yeah, like just as a study of that kind of sound, the way that nu metal as a genre was kind of frowned upon by a lot of critics, by some of the more perhaps conservative concerns of the time. You know what, actually, like, they really did get like what rock music should have been at that sort of era. That sound is just, it's massive. Obviously you've got the big songs on here, the singles. Another song to talk about is Portrait. It never was released as a single, but it's kind of a de facto single. It's one of those ones where like the fans just kind of picked it and went with it, and that's probably like the heaviest song on the album, I would say, and like certainly has the most screaming. And one that I've like has, in many ways, has stuck with me for longer than the singles have, and it's track 8, The Messenger, with JAH at the end. And that the guitar intro on that, really simple, but for some reason like that for years has stuck with me. And yeah, I always remember that intro. It's really something. Like, just a fantastic piece of songwriting, and like, I think for what it is, for a Christian metal album, you know, I don't necessarily subscribe to some of it, but I think they do a very good job of kind of pouring their passion into their music, and it really does come across as something that they genuinely really do care about, and they have a message that they really want to put out. So I think, just from an outside observer of that sort of side of things, like I can like really respect their sort of, as I said, their passion, their desire to really put their all into this. As for what it comes with, fairly simple. You've just got a single sheet with lyrics and the band on there. Pretty simple all in all. And then you've got just a regular black vinyl for the actual albums themselves, and they do sound really good. This is the first pressing that they had for about 20 years, the one that I have, and remarkably, like, this seems to be pretty cheap to pick up. So, you know, if you've got that kind of like passing curiosity or the nostalgia for this kind of era, or, you know, if you do have an interest in Christian metal because of the religious side of things, give it a shot. Like, it's a remarkable sounding album. I mean, it was verified like triple platinum in the US. I think it was under a year from its first release that it was verified triple platinum. It got to like #1 in the Christian US charts, #6 in the regular Billboard. I think 16 in the UK album charts, which, like, that blows my mind. Yeah, like, a remarkable album, even if you don't necessarily subscribe to that sort of you know, the religious approach of it. I think, you know, just musically, like, really surprising, actually, to go back to and listen, and, you know, with slightly less of an edgy approach to it, and yeah, still come out thinking like, yeah, actually, this is a real banger. So yeah, check it out, give it a listen, see what you think. Thanks for watching.